Welcome back, the JT Show. SuperTalk Mississippi, Dave Hughes here, and joining us now on your local SuperTalk station, and also visually. You can see it for yourself at supertalk.fm/watch. State Auditor Shad White, who apparently has gotten about 6 hours of sleep total over the last 2 months. Shad, how you doing?
You can tell. You see these bags under the eyes. I appreciate it. It's good to be here. I'm glad you led in with Armageddon quotes for my interview. That's always encouraging going in.
Well, you got to set the stage, Shad. You got to set expectations properly, and then you can move forward from there. I was just assuming you're not getting much sleep because it seems like every day there's something else coming out of your office that has happened. We've got some other things to talk about. You got a new chief of staff and other things we'll get to in a minute. But it came out, was it yesterday? $150,000. Was that the amount in June?
Yep. So we regularly sort of track how much we're getting back for taxpayers, Dave, every single month. So yesterday's press release stated that we had given back about $150,000. As you probably know, due to the pandemic, it's very difficult to do grand juries and do trials right now, but a lot of judges are still doing sentencings. So what we've been able to do here in the last couple of months or so is on some of our older cases where we've successfully done an investigation, successfully gone before a grand jury, gotten an indictment, and gotten a plea deal. Now we're able to come back in and the judges are getting to a lot of these sentencing. So we're able to get some good sentences for some of the people that we have been working on for quite a while. And to me, the benefit is twofold. One, you know that you're getting money back for taxpayers. That's a great thing. But two, anytime you get a prison sentence for somebody who has stolen public money, one, they're not going to be able to handle public money in the future. And two, it's going to send a message to anybody else who's out there who's thinking about doing something like this, that there's somebody watching. You know, I've always said that if you're out in an office somewhere and you work in a small university or a town or a county and you think, you know, the only people I have to fool are the folks who are sitting around me right now, and if I fool them, I'm going to be able to steal some money. You may think that, but the truth is that there's this whole group of people out here, a team of investigators and folks in my office who are constantly watching that money as well. And you may be able to get away with it for a while, but at some point we're going to catch up to you and we're going to get some results at the end of it as well.
Well, and that's why things like the press release yesterday and what we're talking about now, to me, it's a deterrent because the more that they hear and the more activity they see coming out of your office, the more hesitant that will make some people to go down this path that they don't need to be going down to begin with. And admittedly, sometimes I would bet, and I don't know what you found, and maybe you know this, it's probably a case in a lot of these instances where somebody, you know, just takes a little bit and, I'm going to put it back before anybody notices, but I got to cover this. And then nobody notices, and then they take a little more. And I'm going to put that back, and then before you know it, they look up and they've taken a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, to give you an extreme example, this didn't happen in Mississippi, but the largest municipal embezzlement in U.S. history happened in a little town called Dixon, Illinois. And the town treasurer up there stole $53 million over the course of about 20 years. Well, she doesn't walk in one day and says, I'm going to steal $53 million, right? What she does is she walks in one day and she says, I bet I can get away with stealing $5,000 to overdue bill that I have or whatever it may be. And that metastasizes over time till you get to a $53 million theft. So for me, my personal philosophy is we're going to try to catch stuff as quickly as possible, stop it quickly, but also we're going to focus on prevention. We're going to focus on sending this constant message that we're out there looking. And that's not really Shad's theory of the case. It's really something that's backed up by a lot of research. So the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners will tell you that the number one way you can prevent fraud is to increase the perception of detection. Increase the perception of detection. That means that if folks are out there, they need to feel like somebody is watching, and they need to feel like if they do something that's illegal, if they try to steal, that there's a very high likelihood that they're going to be caught. And so that's why we're constantly putting out messages about, we closed this case out, we finished this sentencing, we got this indictment done, we got this amount of money back for people. It's part of the effort to prevent this on the front end.
Well, and it's changing the perception, like you said, it's changing the mindset from, well, maybe I can get away with this, to it's only a matter of time. And once you get them to that second one, well, they're a lot less likely to engage in any of this kind of behavior.
That's right. That's right. And you know, There's some costs here. So, for instance, every time we put out one of these press releases, every time we post somebody's mugshot on Facebook or Twitter, people will say, "Oh, well, you can't do that. You're just trying to embarrass these people." Well, first of all, they embarrass themselves by stealing from taxpayers. Second of all, a lot of these folks, and we know this from research as well, a lot of these folks just think when they steal money, especially taxpayer money, that there's no real victim. That's how they talk themselves into doing this. So if you put them on Facebook and you put them on blast and you make them famous, well, all of a sudden they start to see, and everybody starts to see, that there are real victims out there. They're victims, and you can see them in the comment chains on Facebook. You can see them in the comment chains and the retweets on Twitter. There are people who care about this because they know that that money doesn't belong in the pocket of some politician or government official who stole it. They know that the money could have gone to schools, could have gone to a teacher pay raise, could have gone to pay for better health care in a community hospital or whatever it may be.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important, the work that you're doing. And I just have this sneaking suspicion that you're not done yet either. There's probably still more to come in terms of cases that you're working on. And I know you can't talk about it. I'm not going to ask you, but I just suspect we haven't reached the bottom of the hole yet, would be my guess.
Yeah. You tried to get a little inside information there. That's fine.
I don't know what you're talking about, Chad.
I was thinking about this the other day. I crossed over a couple of days ago. I crossed over 2 years from the time that Governor Bryant announced that he was appointing me state auditor, and he announced that in the same spot where Governor Kirk Fordyce announced that he was appointing Governor Bryant to be state auditor. So it's been 2 years of intense work, really from that moment on. I mean, from the day I got appointed, the first thing I did with Governor's Mansion and the appointment announcement, go have lunch with Stacey Pickering and pick his brain about, all the success they had, things that we could continue to do, things we needed to change and do better. And then I immediately came over here before I was state auditor and had a full staff meeting with all the directors and talked about what we needed to do going forward. So between then and now, I think we've done an incredible amount of work. As you mentioned, hired a new chief of staff, have hired a new director of investigations a year and a half ago, brought in a lot of good people, kept a lot of good people as well. And things have really blossomed, I think, in the office. And it's really not thanks to me. It's thanks to the team that I've built around here, and they've worked incredibly hard.
And I'm just curious. Let me ask you this. Do you ever have those moments? Do you ever have the days as you and your team continue to go through all of this and you find all of these things and all of these people that have committed these crimes, because that's what they are, is crimes, do you ever just get a little depressed? Do you ever just get a little sad and just kind of go, more? There's more of them? That's got to happen, right?
Absolutely. And this is the hard part of this job, really, is that people call us typically after something bad has happened, right? They call us and they call us with news that they've had $5 million stolen or $1 million stolen. And we have to look at it, figure out what happened, and pick up the pieces at the end of it. Now, when you first come into office, when I first came into office, there's a part of the job that's very exciting. Oh, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to make a big difference. We're going to hold these people accountable. And I still have that fire in the belly every single day. But also, there was a case this week where we get a phone call about millions of dollars that have been taken from a government entity, and we've launched an investigation now. But there's no doubt in my mind that that money was actually stolen, and that we're probably not going to get it back. And it's in a relatively poor part of the state, close to where I'm from. I probably know some of the people that are going to be hurt by this. And yeah, that gets depressing. But that's also the reason why the job itself is fulfilling. This is a state agency of 135 people. The folks who work here are attorneys, CPAs, career investigators. They could all go somewhere else and make a lot more money than they make here. The reason they want to work here is not because I'm such a neat guy. It's because of the mission. It's not because of the money. It's because of the mission. They like looking at themselves in the mirror every single day and saying, I'm going to go in and I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to stop some piece of corruption. I'm going to lock up some politician. I'm going to lock up some government official who felt like it was their right to steal from the taxpayers.
Well, I think the takeaway from this entire segment here is that State Auditor Shad White just admitted he's not a neat guy. Is that what you just did?
You put that on the headline. You could tweet that.
Yeah, we'll just put that right up top and just go from there. Can you hang on through the break?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Fantastic. State Auditor Shad White. We will continue talking to him on the JT. Welcome back. The JT Show. SuperTalk Mississippi. Dave Hughes with us on the air and at SuperTalk TV, supertalk.fm/watch. State Auditor Shad White. And you mentioned it. We mentioned it in passing in the last segment, but you have a new chief of staff now, right?
I do, yes. He's part of the team that we've been building over here. So hired a new chief of staff named Charles Woods. He's a brilliant guy who I stole from Congressman Trent Kelly. He was serving as deputy chief of staff for Congressman Trent Kelly. So Congressman Kelly is out there listening. I apologize for that, but we've been.
He's not really sorry, Trent.
Yeah, I'm not that sorry. It was little sarcasm dripped in there. We've been really fortunate to build a good team over here. Charles is going to be a good addition to that. You know, Charles comes to us not only from working on the Hill, so he's got good policy experience and good management experience. He also comes to us with the experience of having served in the Army National Guard. He's a captain in the Army National Guard. He's a ranger, trained ranger, and he's commanded troops in Syria. And so, you know, he's got a ton of management experience of folks who have been under extreme circumstances. And I put people here in the auditor's office under extreme circumstances every single day too. So he's going to be a good tool in the toolbox for making sure we get to our mission here.
Well, and that's one thing, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's one aspect I think people don't think about sometimes with the state auditor's office. You can wind up in some sticky situations when some of your officers and investigative teams go out into the field and go to some of these locations and deal with these people, I would expect.
Absolutely. You know, and some folks have said to me, well, why is it that investigators in the auditor's office need to be trained law enforcement officers? Why do they need to carry a gun, that sort of thing? And I'll tell you, without elaborating on the details of this, there was one instance, perfect example of why this is necessary. Two of our agents go to arrest an individual who had been indicted. We go in, they pull up. I was not there, of course, but the trained investigators, the trained law enforcement officers are there. And, you know, the individual sprints into their home, and they knew what was about to happen. They knew that they had seen a vehicle pull up that looked like law enforcement officers. So they run into their home. You don't know what that individual is going to do. You don't know if they're going to come out with a gun. You have no idea. And so our guys have to think about, okay, well, how do we handle this? Do you go in there? Do you try to stop him before he gets his hands on a firearm? Do you wait outside and form a perimeter? People act like, you know, audits are going to end up, you know, with the result of somebody just saying, well, I did something wrong, so sorry about that. No, the result of a lot of this is if somebody steals $20,000, they're looking at many, many years in prison. And when somebody is staring down the barrel of many, many years in prison, they may get a little desperate when somebody comes to arrest them. So, you know, we have a great team here, but they have to constantly do training. They have to constantly learn how to protect themselves. They have to constantly know that when they go out there, they could be putting their lives on the line. And they do so because they care about the mission. They care about protecting taxpayer dollars.
And that's the thing that, like I said, I don't think a lot of people realize, but it is important because you never know how they're going to react. And by the way, glad you weren't there for that particular incident. Let me ask you about something else. It's been talked about quite a bit. We've had a lot of back and forth on this and some action taken. And, you know, when you say auditor, like you were referring to just a second ago, when you hear audit, you think accountant. You think of a guy with a pocket protector and a calculator. It's a lot more involved than that. But in this particular case, maybe not as much. What can you tell us about getting some more transparency in prices from hospitals and on health care?
Yeah, I can give you a little bit of information on that because it's something we've been working on for about a year now. We don't have any results yet, but I expect them soon. So to give you a little bit of background, Dave, you know, we have known, mainly folks who have watched the healthcare industry, we've known for a while that the prices that people pay for any sort of healthcare costs are incredibly opaque. They're not transparent at all. You know, so when you walk in, you may need to get, let's say, an MRI, and you may get a bill at the end of it. You have no idea usually what the bill is going to be. You have no idea what the hospital may have charged your insurance company. If you don't have insurance, you may be shocked to see that the bill is $20,000, $30,000. If you're, heaven forbid, a small business person who's decided to self-insure or you want to pay in cash and you get faced with a bill like that, it could bankrupt you. Too many of those kinds of things could bankrupt you. So this is a huge problem, just in general, lack of transparency in healthcare prices. And I think the Trump administration has seen this too. Democrats have seen it too. This is not a partisan issue. It's something that anybody who cares about working people, normal folks who have to pay these bills, should be caring about. So a few years ago, right after the Trump administration came into office, they started an effort to bring more transparency to healthcare. One thing they did is they said, we are going to build a website, and we're going to require hospitals to put information on there that shows how 300 performed procedures cost, how much those procedures cost. So MRIs, C-sections, those kinds of things. And of course, the American Hospital Association did not like that at all. They've sued to stop the Trump administration from being able to do that and being able to require that. Good news is, a few weeks ago, U.S. District Court judge ruled that the Trump administration was right, that the hospitals can be required to do that. My staff knew that all this was kind of going on in the background, that the Trump administration was making this effort, that there was litigation. So we have started our own effort very quietly over here in the auditor's office to try to add some transparency to the system, and to not to go into too much detail, but quietly subpoena documents. We've talked to experts in the field. We have started working with experts that we have entered into contractual agreements with, legal experts, data analysts, those kinds of folks who can help us figure out some solutions to this. I've had conversations with Insurance Commissioner Mike Chaney, and while we aren't ready to reveal any results yet, what I can tell you is that we're seeing the same problems in Mississippi that we see in many other places around the country, which is that insurance companies, other institutions, sometimes engage in this practice of hiding what they're actually doing, hiding how much they're charging consumers. And if the consumer happens to be the government, if the consumer happens to be paying in public dollars, it falls under my jurisdiction, which means I get the right to look at it and can help find some solutions for consumers out there.
And that's the thing, because this applies across the board. The less transparency you have, at best, the more opportunity you have for something to be going on that really shouldn't be going on. That's the best case when you have less transparency. And I'm going to be honest, just between you and me, Shad, anybody that argues against it, that comes out and says, no, you don't need to know what we're doing. Look over there. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. That kind of gets one of my eyebrows to go up, and I start to wonder, okay, what's going on? And that perception, I think, can only be combated by getting more transparency into the system.
That's right. That's what we call a clue, when someone doesn't want you to see what they're doing. I think that what you said is true, that certainly if someone doesn't want transparency in a system, there could be fraud there. The other way to say it, I guess, is if there is transparency in prices, for instance, it's going to lead to competition, and people will be able to vote with their feet, and you will be able to lower prices for an entire system. So, people say this in healthcare. Well, there are these big prices charged for all sorts of procedures, but most people don't end up paying it because they've got health insurance. Well, that is true, but there's some number of people out there who are not insured, or who self-insure, or who want to pay in cash. Those folks deserve to be able to look on a website and see, okay, I've got 3 good doctors in Jackson who perform MRIs. Here are the prices for those MRIs. Here's what I want to be charged. Here's what I would be charged if I came in and I demanded to pay in cash. They should be able to look at that, make a decision about where they want to go, and then vote with their feet. And if those folks are doing that, it doesn't matter if a whole bunch of other people have insurance and are not paying the sticker price. The prices are going to come down. They're going to level out. I think about it very simply. Maybe this is too simplistic, but I'll say it anyway. If you walk into a grocery, you should be able to figure out if you want to buy oranges from Walmart or from Kroger. It should be very plain on its face. That's what market honest. That's what keeps prices low. And we've never really had that in American healthcare. And there's so much talk about, is Obamacare the solution? Is this the solution? I'll tell you, we should start with basic market principles, which is, how about we tell everybody the price of everything and we let consumers choose? That's the first step.
It sounds to me like the end of the road is every Wednesday the paper will be packed full of flyers from the local medical facilities with this week's specials.
Well, think about it. Sometimes that already happens. Think about LASIK surgery. So, we have a good bit of transparency on some specific procedures, like LASIK, the surgery for your eyes. That has brought the price of LASIK down. It has added to the quality per dollar that you pay. So why not have that in everything? And the Trump administration gets that. That's why they're fighting for this. They know that consumers get it. That's why consumers are demanding it. And we're just going to have to have some folks who are willing to stand up to the big companies and say, look, you have to tell us how much you're charging for this. Consumers deserve to know.
State Auditor Shad White, self-avowed, not a neat guy. We appreciate your time. I'm never going to let you forget that, Shad. You know it, right? I'm never going to let you live it down.
No, bring it on. Every time I come on, I'm expecting it now.
That's your intro from now on. Shad White, we appreciate your time. Keep up the good work.
Thanks,
we will continue on SuperTalk Mississippi, the JT